Hello, this is the Fix Virus show. Here's the fancy bumper music, the sticks. Okay, so I wanted to talk about Quantum Day. I wrote a article on my Oversight Sentry webpage about the Quantum Day after I watched the DEFCON presentation, which just recently was put out on YouTube, although, DEFCON is out in August. Anyway, um, so why is Quantum Day important? Because if Qday arrives, or when it arrives, we'll have to replace all of our encryption software. So everything that keeps us safe on the internet, like when we buy things, when we log in remotely using VPN software, that is using encryption software. So if that encryption software is breakable, which it today is not if you use the right stuff, then you're safe in entering usernames and passwords while you're logging into a remote computer, for example. Or you can enter your credit card numbers when you're buying something online. Well, if Qday arrives, then there will be computers that will break the encryption software. It may take time, it may not. Even so, people can download all the information and then later on encrypt it, decrypt it later. That's the initial um, worry right now. Anyway, is where even though they can't crack it, they'll be able to crack it at some point in the future. So yes, the a password isn't as useful, but within 6 months, within a year, it might still be useful. As you know, passwords they become less and less useful over time, but it's good to have some older passwords, but from other people. Anyway, so I was looking at the Qday as a moment in time which we will have to keep up on, especially in PCI compliance, and especially in compliance efforts, which is kind of what I work on. So Qday initially was expected to occur around 2035, and that is the NIST's official estimate, the National Institute of Science and Technology. So as Mr. Karyanis was making his presentation, post-quantum panic, when will the cracking begin and can be detected? He discussed what will it take, how many qubits will it take to break the current technologies. So a bit is a 0 and 1, and it's with the current computers, the current technology. A qubit is the lowest form of storage, a 0 and a 1, or both. There may be other ways of storing, but I guess I can look into that. But let's not dabble into how qubits can be stored. Let's just discuss how many qubits will it take. So they've been working on a variety of issues with the quantum computers, including error corrections. But I mean, the main issue is how many qubits can you run in a computer? So the more qubits, obviously, the more complex it will be, and therefore it will take longer to get a computer like that running or be efficiently working the way you want it to be. So he was saying that the different algorithms will require a certain amount of qubits as we understand today. So initially, there was a thought that it would take 20 million qubits to break like the RSA 2048, which is Shor's algorithm. That's a pretty good algorithm. So now it may be as little as 1400 to 6000 logical qubits. And he goes over some of the different technologies, 1000 to 3000 qubits. So there's a company called IonQ. It's a public company that could do 1000 plus qubits by 2026. So, reducing the timeline to 2030 isn't that out of the ordinary. And, there may even be 20,000 physical qubits by 2028 through an interconnected chip design. So, here's where the real risk analysis comes. Qday is bad because we'll lose all our technology, our encryption technology. So when will this actually occur? We don't know, but if it's 2028, 2020, 2030, or somewhere in between, that's only a few years away. So it behooves you to actually start to plan for this day. Just like when we were planning for the Y2K issue. The Y2K issue, if you remember, happened in the year 2000, January 1, 2000, because some software did not have 4 digits for the day, for the date, for the year. It had 2 digits only because they were trying to take shortcuts, but at a certain point in the past, there wasn't any space to put 4 digits. So then, as time went on, a lot of people were programming still under the 2 digits, even though now they could go to 4. So eventually, everyone had to update all of the software to 4 digits. Because having only 2 digits, as you know, is a problem, especially if 00 is greater than 99. So anyway, so the thing with the qubits and the quantum day is that we don't know when it will occur. We know it will happen sooner than we thought, which was 2035. It's going to happen earlier, maybe 2030, 2028. And actually, there is could be a school of thought where it will happen sooner and sooner, especially with all the AI technologies, with the new hardware constantly being stood up, and as it comes online, we are going to get more and more technologies. And in fact, he was talking about you may be able to run a very low tech software and this in these humongous centers. You could run it for a week. Maybe you can break the technologies anyway. So we're going to have to figure out to create post-quantum resistant, the post-Qday and quantum resistant software. We're going to have to start looking into it. So everyone is going to have that in their minds. And when we're looking for software, when we're looking for things to purchase, maybe we'll look for the stuff that is quantum resistant. And because there is ways to do that today. And in fact, Palo Alto has some quantum resistant VPN software already. And I'm sure you could find other examples. That's just an example that I know of in the last few days somebody told me. So anyway, it's better to plan than to panic. That was another thing Mr. Karyanis was saying. So let's just keep it at that, and let's start planning on how we can handle this Qday, which would be a catastrophe if we did nothing. So if 2028 rolls around and you did nothing and Qday happens, now what? Now everybody is going to have to scramble. So anyway, let's start planning. Thank you for the listen. Give me a like and promote this. Basically it's like a PSA. Thank you, and we'll talk to you until next time.